All right. Welcome to another installment of Old Men Yell at Cloud. I am Jim Schultz.
Oh, I'm Patrick S. Barry.
I'm Christopher Brown.
And we have our first guest this evening, Mr. Jon Sasor.
Hello. Sasor, actually.
So, Jesus Christ. I'll get it right one of these days.
Both of you have a problem with this.
I've been getting it right.
Well, lately you have,
like
just not when
for-
you're on stage in
I'm
front
1
of people.
for 8.
Yeah, I just go by what Patrick says.
That's right. Throw him right under the bus where he belongs.
It is where I belong.
Okay, so tonight we're doing 1993 Rush Counterparts. Counterparts is the 15th studio album by Canadian rock band Rush, released on October 19th, 1993. 3 days after my 7th birthday.
That's 15.
15, yeah.
Christ, all right.
Yeah, they're basically releasing an album a year for a while, and then
Yeah.
like every 2 years
All
since
right.
like 74.
Counterparts is one of Rush's highest charting albums in the U.S., peaking at number 2.
Yeah, interesting.
The lyrics of Counterparts continue the trends of Roll the Bones, with dark and emotional themes being the primary focus. Some songs are heavy-sounding, such as Animate and Stick It Out, which topped the Billboard Album Rock Tracks chart for 4 weeks in late 1993, becoming the band's 5th single to do so. Leave That Thing Alone earned a Grammy nomination for Best Instrumental Rock Performance. It has been reissued and remastered twice, once in 2004 as a continuation of the Rush Remaster series, and again in 2013 as a part of a box set, the studio albums 1989 through 2007. The album earned a gold certification in Canada when it was released in October 93 and platinum the next year. It peaked at number 2 on Billboard album charts and earned gold certification in the U.S. in December 1993. Rush supported Counterparts with a 4-month tour limited to North America. Relations between the members were tense, and they followed the tour with a long break during which Lee planned to spend time with his growing family, and each planned to explore other creative interests such as Lifeson's solo album. When they returned to the studio in 1996 to record their next album, Test for Echo, Lifeson took a more assertive production role over Lee, which is probably why nobody knows what the fuck Test for Echo is.
Oddly enough, I remember hearing the title track for that when it premiered on the radio. They were playing quite a bit on AAF.
Yeah. Test for Echo.
But yeah.
So there were 5 singles off of Counterparts.
As many as 5.
Many of 5. Stick It Out,
0,
Nobody's
5.
Hero, Double Agent, Cold Fire, and Animate.
Interesting. Got a question for you,
Yeah.
and it relates to our friends up to the north. What is gold certification in Canada?
20.
20?
I don't know.
You said that so assuredly. I thought.
Yeah, check
I thought
the
it was
exchange
Like-
rate. Hold on.
Let me look.
I was gonna say, like, for like a Rush record, isn't it like just default? They just the moment it's like it leaves the mastering house, they're like, "Here's gold."
What? I mean,
Yeah, like
besides
they club a seal in celebration.
Fine, eh?
besides Neil Young, Nickelback, and Rush, who the fuck else is from Canada?
Mike Myers,
Musically,
Joni Mitchell.
Leonard
Neil Young?
Leonard
Oh,
Nimoy,
Leonard
William
Cohen.
Shatner,
Leonard Cohen was from Montreal.
and William Shatner.
Yeah, but well, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true.
I know that Of Montreal isn't from Montreal. I'm not really sure. where they're from.
Arcade Fire.
No, they're from Boston.
No, they're from Canada.
They started in Boston.
No,
and
they
then
started
moved to
in
Canada.
Montreal.
No, they didn't.
As a band, they started in Montreal. The lead guy's from Boston, but they're a fucking Montreal
I
band.
don't
They're
give a-
from my ass.
Either way, either way, I think we can all agree that they have really sucked. And depending on how long is how forgiving you are, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I liked the suburbs. That was about it.
Yeah, I'd say once 2010.
But anyways, we're
hit.
talking about Rush. Shut the fuck up. Okay. So this album has a special place in my heart because it was kind of my introduction into prog drumming. I remember being a wee lad, starting out on the drums, and I'd be playing like Offspring and Nirvana and shit like that. And my dad got fed up with it and came downstairs one day with this album and was like, "Here, learn how to play this." And that was it. That was the turning point. And I was just saying when we were listening, I was saying to John, I was like, I'm listening to this album and I can still hear, like, in my drumming 15 years later, I can hear this album.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Definitely, yeah. I just had a great visual of like, Daddy, play a catch. Shut up and listen to Rush.
I think it was because I was playing Blink-182 songs, and I'm pretty sure my dad fucking hated Blink-182.
I mean, your dad is right.
No,
He's not wrong.
Dad is always right.
I feel like that's such a dad move, though, just slipping that Rush record in there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's either that or Zepp, like one or the other is.
I remember
Steely Dan.
it was actually at the Gramlins show. I was talking to Adam from Big Time Kill, and he was like, I think he was asking me how I got into like progressive drummer. I was like, oh, well, like my dad would give me these albums, like he'd have me like play Rush albums, and then he gave me an Anthrax album and like Tool and stuff. and then Adam was like, wow, cool dad, man. Cool dad. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that is a pretty cool dad. I gotta say that is definitely on like the younger end of music taste there
Yeah.
for someone in our age group.
So I looked up what is Canadian gold.
Jesus, I can only imagine what
It's
euphemism
It's a
that is.
strain of heroin, absolutely.
Man, I went out with this girl I met on Craigslist, and she gave me a Canadian gold. I still can't walk right.
You forgot the A at the end.
Oh goodness.
Hey.
The Canadian gold maple leaf is a gold bullion coin that is issued annually by the government of Canada. That's it.
Yay.
All right, that's enough like real things about Canada. I think we can probably make
now we gotta
educated.
sing the
We can make
anthem.
educated guesses from here on out.
What is Canadian gold record sales?
This is real good radio.
Oh my god. 50,000.
50,000.
Really?
Yeah. 50,000 for gold and 100,000 for platinum.
Oh,
So
that really
But
colors
I mean that seems old though.
So yeah, it seems like 50,000 Canadian, 70,000 US. That was an exchange rate joke. You see, it didn't fly, but that's
You know what's pretty good? It's Canada Dry. Like
Yeah.
pretty solid ginger ale, right?
Is that the ginger ale?
You know, if I'm going ginger ale, I'm going Canada Dry. Not gonna
Yeah,
lie.
why not? And Canada mints, like pretty solid mint.
Let me
if
tell
you
you.
need one.
I thought you-
Poutine.
Oh yeah, okay.
Poutine's a great thing.
Canadian French
is
fries,
true.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You ever have Canadian mist whiskey?
I think no.
So if you are a diarrhea enthusiast, I recommend drinking this whiskey.
So like enthusiast as in like what type of diarrhea, like what manner of diarrhea I will get.
I mean, I wasn't thinking about it that deeply. If you want to talk more about
I'm a
this,
connoisseur.
I'm not really that interested, but I can probably find someone who is. Yeah, anyone out there who wants to get in touch with Patrick and talk about these sort of things, apparently he's game.
Yeah.
I
just
actually
DM
flew
me.
the last time I went to Japan. I flew Air Canada, and all they had was Molson beer on the plane.
I'm going to say either Molson or Labatt, one of the...
And for some reason, I don't even think they have bison in Canada, but I just imagine like in the back of the plane, there's a bison on like a till walking in a circle that's powering it.
Talking about Russia's
Russia's
counterparts.
counterparts. All right, should we move
Getting
on
Lee.
to?
Yeah, let's
Should we move on to
please.
favorite moments? You know what, John, you're the guest. We'll start with John. Not favorite moments. Favorite song.
Favorite song?
Tell us why. Well, first tell us the song.
Yeah, tell us the title then.
The title. I like the opener best of everything. Animate Me.
Polarize me, sensitize me, criticize me, civilize me.
Yeah, that's a great opening track. I gotta say, definitely. Yeah, you're excited. I feel like I'm at a fucking Rush concert. Like I'm getting hit with lasers and like drinking $8 Bud Lights.
Have you seen Rush?
I have. Yeah.
All right, so I'm assuming Patrick and I are the only ones who've been to a Rush show.
Yeah.
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 I went on my 18th birthday and then again in 2007.
Okay.
Yeah. Good
Interesting.
times.
You know what? I'm just gonna toss my hat in the ring for that as well. Animate was my favorite as well. I really liked the sort of counterpoint going between the chorus guitar riff and the bass and the melody going on during that part. It was just sort of not an expected chord progression, but not one that was out for the sake of out. Like, it was still catchy. It still sort of had its thing going, and that was my favorite as well. But what I was laughing at the beginning, or what I wanted to say something about at the beginning, was that the drum intro made me think of Land of Confusion.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
And when you looked over and saw me like about to say something, what I was about to do was start doing. But anyway, I digress.
No, I can see that. Yep, for sure. Mr. Barry.
Is it my turn? Well, I was gonna go with animate, but I had to back up for such
Come on,
an occasion.
man. All the cool kids are doing it.
Well, I mean, it's clear why it was the first track. 'Cause it was the best one. Leave that thing alone. I also enjoyed. Yeah, you know, I appreciated like hearing him just like grooving as an instrumental unit. It's like,
yeah, I was gonna say that. I mean, obviously, fucking Geddy Lee is one of the best bassists, but it's like that song particularly is very Geddy heavy. I feel like.
Yeah, it's a great groove and like
grooves.
It does groove.
That
yeah,
song goes in a few places.
It's got a good ass fucking Liefeson solo. Alex Liefeson is like one of my favorite guitarists.
His guitar playing on that is very lyrical, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I could have used a little bit more of him doing lyrical guitar on that because I really liked the track, but it felt like a backing track without a vocal for me in a lot of parts because I didn't think there was like quite enough melody going on in it. But it was a really cool track. Like, it's definitely Rush doing their thing.
Yeah,
doing
for
it well.
sure. Yeah, you definitely get a sense of that on this album versus everything that you heard from the 80s where it was like a little more calculated.
Well, you
back then.
You had mentioned even when I brought up that we were doing this album, we were talking about it, this was kind of their more return to form.
Yeah, definitely. They came out of the 80s. They did. They did what was it? Roll the Bones and Presto. They eased. They're like starting to ease back on the synths a bit, but like this album in particular, this sounds more like what they're doing,
right?
Like to this day.
I'm trying to think. There was very minimal synth on this album, if any.
Yeah, it was very textural.
Yeah,
there is a good amount of synth on this. Very textural for the most part. It was Leave That Thing Alone because there was this kind of like percussive synth going in the background.
Yes.
That reminded me a lot of the stuff on Disintegration by The Cure. It was just sort of like this percussive stuff. It was doing more percussive things than melodic or what have you. But that was super cool, I thought.
Yeah, good track. So that was the one that was nominated for a Grammy but lost to Pink Floyd's Marooned, right?
I don't know.
It's right time-wise.
Yeah.
I think so. I don't know.
Which dinosaur wore it better? Jim, what's your favorite?
I'm gonna go with Animate.
Polarize me, sensitize me, criticize me, civilize me.
Because like I said, this album, that was the song that kind of drove me into the kind of progressive scene.
And it slams.
I'm getting there.
And it slams. Come on, just say it.
So yeah, it was the first progressive song I ever played, and there's this fill in the middle. There's this. First of all, this album is just fucking riddled with triplets.
Yeah.
This album taught me how to play a goddamn triplet. But there's a fill in the middle of the song where it stops, and he's just like, blah, 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 blah. And it just fucking slams. It slams the song right back in, and there's just a lot of good Neil Peart going on in this song. And,
good shit. Yeah,
and that's why I'm picking it. But, should we do least favorite and then MVP, or do you want to do MVP first?
Yeah, why don't we do a negativity sandwich?
Yeah, do negativity sandwich. All right, John, what's your least favorite?
My least favorite, Speed of Love, was my least favorite on this one.
Love is born with lightning bolts.
It just didn't. It seemed a little bit out there. The ballady didn't quite strike home, especially with everything else going on.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. It was sort of a meh track to me.
Had a bit of a filler kind of vibe going on.
Yeah.
Give me a second here, because there it is. Double Agent was my least favorite.
On the edge of sleep, I heard voices behind the door. The known and the nameless, familiar and faceless. My angels and my demons at war.
Despite being the second song in a row that had some Robert Smith guitar lines, almost note for note, the 80s key. So I have a note here that just says 80s keys. Whoa. But yeah, no, just between the spoken word verses and then the choruses, I didn't think like really paid off. Like if you're gonna make us eat the vegetable that is spoken word verses without some sort of melody, and it's like really bone dry vocals, like we had better have some really delicious filet mignon when that chorus comes around. And this chorus was like like a burger that your uncle makes. It was fine. It just
We don't talk about that.
listen. Uncle Terry makes a good burger.
Used to, okay?
before he got full of himself and started using synthesizers in the 80s.
Yeah, that was almost my least favorite, because growing up listening to this album, that was always the one I skipped over. But then, like, you kind of have that moment where you're like, yeah, I'm gonna give this the benefit of the doubt. And then I listened. I was like, there's some pretty cool parts in the song. Like, there's another fucking awesome triplet fill in this song that really slams. So
Don't want to miss those.
no, you don't want to miss that. So I don't skip over them, or just for that fill.
Well, that tends to happen too with like a lot of like favorite albums that I've had, where like there will be a song or two that I skip, and then one day I don't, and then after that I just never skip it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that track was interesting in terms, like, some of the other stuff going on was actually pretty interesting in that, or at least it kind of, like, the tom work in that was actually interesting.
Yeah,
but
I like
then
the tom work.
The spoken word is just was odd. Like,
That was what always turned me off about the song. I was like, what the fuck is he doing? And I would just skip it.
It kind of just struck me as like, it's like, all right, we've got these lyrics, but we don't know what to do with it. We're just going to
Is
say
Geddy
it.
exactly.
Lee trying to rap right now? Is that what's happening?
They already did that on Roll the Bones.
I told you
double
my
agent.
lame
Double
joke about
agent.
Roll the Bones, where he's in the studio and it's like, for the last time, it's 1,000 saxophones.
Rapping
I'm a
skeletons.
double agent. Yeah, that's how the song goes.
Yeah.
All right.
Christopher, or did we already do?
I just did Double Agent.
Sorry, yeah, that's right, Patrick.
I went with Nobody's Hero.
Shattered in a nightmare of brutality. They tried to carry on, tried to bear the agony, tried to hold some faith in the goodness of humanity. As the years went by, we drifted apart. When I heard
Which, like, the sentiment of the song was nice. Although I guess the second verse was about a murder by way of serial killer or something like that.
I think just the daughter died somehow. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was a serial killer involved, you sick bastard. But
John, do you know?
I do not.
All right, so we unconfirmed.
It wasn't Robert Picton. We know that.
Yeah, he was out to lunch.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean but the song itself was a little like heavy-handed, and the Michael Kamen strings was like could have gone in Beauty and the Beast, I guess.
All right, so there is my note that I told Jim I quoted him. Sounds like it could be on the Beauty and the Beast soundtrack. Now, what I wrote about that was that it kind of like the lyrics were so heavy-handed and clumsy that it reminded me of real-life anecdotes that were like Rush's equivalent of that Crash Test Dummies song.
Oh,
Yeah.
This song is.
Once I knew this girl who got murdered in Canada, and this song is about her.
No, I mean, I feel like the song is longer than it needs to be.
Yeah.
I don't know. I liked the orchestral string stuff, but it does drag on a bit. There's some good hi-hat work in it. I like the combination of the acoustic and the hi-hat going on there. I think that was a nice combination.
What's your least favorite?
My least favorite is I went with Speed of Love as well. I'm gonna agree with John. It just seems like kind of a filler track. It's that one that I always like. Oh yeah, this song's on here. Get to it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I gotta get to this.
So that song is funny to me because that's when I noticed they had a few songs with different kind of influences. So like Between the Sun and the Moon was kind of like Rush doing a pop song. Like they're doing it as like they're trying to do a pop song, but it's Rush doing a pop song. So that's how it comes out through the Rush filter. Whereas Speed of Love, I thought was them trying to do almost like a post-punk song. So they're trying to do like an early Cure, like Joy Division, early New Order kind of thing. Again, through the Rush filter. So if we were to assign them MIDI velocity values, everything is 120 through 127. But that's like what it sounded like they were trying to do. Like they were just, let's start with like something post-punky. And that's kind of where they ended up for that particular song. I liked it, and that's probably why.
Yeah, I don't know. There's this like marching snare section of that song that it just kind of seems,
a little contrived. Yeah.
There's some Neil's like throwing in some electric drum parts at some points, and he does it in this song, and it just doesn't feel like it feels forced. Whereas in some other songs he does it, and what was another one? Leave That Thing Alone. Neil does this sweet fill, and he throws in some samples, and it works there. But I didn't think it really worked on this song. That's all I have to say about that.
The track, The Speed of Love.
Hey, Jenny. Oh, goodness.
All right, MVP moments. Jonathan.
I came back and I actually switched on this last time. The part that I actually thought was the best that I liked was in the middle of the Between the Sun and the Moon, where there's a part kind of midway or the bridge or something like that, where it does this really cool part where it's adding the acoustics are kind of doubling the electric part, and it kind of layers and just kind of it hits strongly and just kind of. It slams.
Yeah, there's a few instances of that happening on the record, like production wise.
Yeah, and it's just the way that was kind of the combination of the production with how it was like implemented in that particular section of that song kind of stuck out. Where I was just like, because I kind of noticed it before, but like this last go through, it was just like, yeah, that really kind of slams in that spot.
Yeah, so Peter Collins, the producer of this record, also produced a record for my childhood, Empire by Queensryche. Yeah, I'm gonna throw some little tiny devil horns up because it's just Queensryche. They're not like really a metal band. They're kind of like a metal band for weenies. But yeah, like super slick and just like big ass guitars and like big ringy acoustics and shit.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
I feel like, we were talking about Roll the Bones and like the 80s and the synth stuff. Like this was a rock record.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The way the guitars and everything were mixed, it's a rock record.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, it feels a little more loose than like the more calculated stuff they were doing in the 80s, for sure. You could get that sense that they were like sort of back in the studio jamming.
Yeah. I would have liked a little bit more like rhythm guitar, I think, on this album. The bass is mixed super, super loud, which is cool because, I mean, Geddy Lee's obviously a really fucking good bass player and he's doing awesome stuff. But I wish there was like just a little bit more of a balance between the two than there is.
Yeah, they don't do that a lot on other Rush albums. I don't know how familiar you are with any of their other records.
Wholly unfamiliar.
Wholly unfamiliar. Yeah, that's sort of like a hallmark. There's a lot of like Liposunt soloing over just like naked bass and drums.
My MVP would be the breakdown of The Speed of Love.
Oh.
We don't even have to touch. I can feel your presence in the silence that we share. Got to keep on.
Yeah, no, I like that breakdown because it was one of the parts in the album that actually kind of had some breathing room where it was appreciated. And it had a build that started to get super dense and super cool, and then it came back to the chorus, which had a little bit of a breathing room again after this like crazy dense build. So I don't know. Just dynamically, I thought it was one of the more interesting parts of the album because, like I said before, it just seems like everything else on this is like pretty intense for the most part. Like if everyone's hitting a note, they're gonna hit it hard. Whereas in this particular section, it seemed like everyone was dialing it back a little bit and kind of playing a little bit with their volume.
All right, my MVP moment was in Stick It Out, which was featured on the animated program Beavis and Butthead, the video for it back in the day.
No, I can't remember. Did they like it or were they making fun of it?
They were making fun of it.
'Cause
They
I know
were
they-
like, it's Rush, Rush.
Because I know they.
Oh yeah, those are the voices that we loved so much.
Oh, yeah, it's Rush. You know, Brevis and Beacon.
Travis and Bob.
Purvis and Burgood.
Fuck, what was that
I know
song
they
about?
they hated Journey. I remember that. They fucking
Yeah,
hated
I mean,
Journey.
they're definitely not wrong there. Yeah, so in Stick It Out, there's like these like tension notes on like the pre-verse hooks, the burn these like really cool like dissonant tension notes on there, very grungy, very very flannel Northwestern 1993.
Spit out your anger. Don't swallow your tongue. Stick it out. Don't swallow the poison.
Yeah, it was probably the most 1993 moment on this album. Like, if you had taken Geddy Lee's vocals off of that, you could have had that be the background music in the scene in The Crow when they're in the nightclub, and it would have fit flawlessly.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, my MVP moment is the ride pattern during Cold Fire during the chorus.
Song. This isn't fantasy land. Phosphorescent wave on a tropical sea is a cold fire. The pattern of moonlight on the bedroom floor is a cold fire. The flame at the heart of a pawnbroker's diamond is a cold fire.
One of my favorite ride patterns of all time.
Yeah, it's a good tune.
Just makes my hair stand up on my arm.
Yeah, it's a ride pattern that's almost as complex as women. For those of you not in the know, I'm paraphrasing the lyric. You know how complex women are from that same song.
The lyrics in this song are lame.
They're clumsy on the album in general, but yeah, no, that's a super cool ride pattern, and that song, if you can look past the lyrics, is actually pretty fun.
It's got like the surf guitar thing going on too, which is
it's a little brighter than some of the other songs on the album. One of my beefs with this album is like I felt like a lot of the songs are kind of the same tempo.
yeah.
And this one it kind of picks you back up, and it was unexpected. Well, yeah.
Oh no, sorry.
I completely lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry. I feel like I'm responsible for that. No,
You
I
are.
didn't.
Thank you.
I'm agreeing with you though, because I thought it also had a little bit more atmosphere. Like it's one of the songs in this album that actually felt like it was being played in like a specific room. The rest of it, again, the dynamics are pretty in your face, so it doesn't matter, sonically where it is. Whereas this invoked them playing like in a larger room together and kind of that sonic space.
Yeah, the sonic space filled with blue collar dads and white collar dads, and a lot of bored.
Everybody's drinking Labatt Blue.
And there is not a complex woman in sight.
There's a lot of bored wives that are like, "Oh, honey, it's your birthday. Don't worry. I'll go wait in line for the beer for 20 minutes. It's fine. I don't need to see this."
All right. Comparable albums. Mr. Sasor. Are you going to write this time? Ding, ding. All right.
Close enough.
Sassy Sasor.
That was the one thing I wasn't quite sure on, was finding something that's like a direct comparable thing. I mean, it's very, in general, it has a very like 1993 vibe to it. Like, and listening to, like, without having seen anything about it, it just kind of seems to, as far as Rush goes, it makes perfect sense that this is 1993 between echoes of 80s things and the little bits of grungy touches and
Yeah, Patrick kept calling it Rush's grunge album.
like it just seems to like be a perfect match for that vintage. So I can't think of anything that's like a direct comp record, but it evokes everything from 1993 as far as I can think of.
Yeah, no, I won't doubt that.
For me, so I was really struggling. I started right away at Animate trying to think of something that this could be comparable to, and I think I kind of got it at that point. Geddy Lee's vocals for stuff I listen to reminds me most of the dude from Placebo. And that combined with the obvious fact that this is a grunge album.
Bona fide.
I love how you were trying to keep a straight face. For those playing at home, Chris was trying to keep a straight face while he said that.
It made me think of the Placebo album, Without You I'm Nothing, which is basically playing around with a lot of similar musical ideas. Nothing quite as complex necessarily, but it's hitting the same sort of dynamics, hitting the same moods, and melodically and certainly in terms of vocal range, the singers in the same arena.
I'm certain Bolko was a big Rush fan too.
I would have to assume so, because there's literally no one else who sings in that vocal range, and he had to look up to someone.
It was like it was Rush and The Cure. That was like his two big.
We all need a hero.
I don't get
it. There's nothing to get. I'm tired.
All right. Well, yeah. Let's wrap it up.
What do you got?
Comparable album.
Yeah.
So this is probably one that nobody's gonna know. But there is a band called King's X. I don't know. Has anyone heard of them? So, like, long story short, they were like a kind of fringe Christian rock band that became more atheist with each album. But like 3-piece. The bass player plays a 12-string bass, like 4 courses of 3. Black dude, like super soulful, great voice. But they put out an album in.
I think he wore a cowboy hat when I saw them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I saw them open for Dream Theater once.
Yeah, they did a They were, it was like them, Dream Theater, and like
I think it was Queensryche too.
might have been Queensryche. Yeah,
And the circle is complete.
shit, that's like all my jams back in 10th grade. Anyway, so they put out an album in 1994 called Dog Man, and it was produced by Brendan O'Brien. So like Nuff said, it was their fucking grunge album.
Yeah.
And like it was a noticeable change from their like previous album, which like was kind of more on the 80s side of things, and then this one, you're in grunge town. And you could definitely draw that comparison to this record.
It was called Dogman.
Dogman, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because Suede put out an album in '94 called Dogman Star, and that was immediately what my mind went to. But
Interesting.
It's just that the collective unconscious at that point was really aware of the Dogman and all that he had to offer.
Oh man, in 1994.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I vaguely remember a Dogman around that time.
Yeah,
kind of skulking about.
Yeah, Dogman was skulking about, stealing the kids' candy.
Yeah, I was in fourth grade, and like just in the middle of class, and like fourth grade teacher was like, teaching us algebra or whatever, and I would mention the Dog Man, and just like, Patrick, we all know about the Dog Man. Let's just move on. It's better if you just don't pay attention to him.
Yeah, it was a really sad day for me when the authorities finally picked up Dogman, because it turns out that he wasn't actually like any sort of fictional creature, but just an escaped convict who was living in the woods near Waybright Elementary.
Remember the reality show he got? That was awesome.
I love Dogman. Yeah, and then one of the contestants who didn't win on that ended up getting her own show afterwards.
Oh yeah, that's how that works.
Yeah,
because that's how that's the age that we live in nowadays.
Yeah, it was called Throw Me a Bone.
Oh, take me to the bone zone.
How about you, Jim?
So I was trying to think about this, and I'm gonna go with Vapor Trails, which was the album that Rush put out in 2002. I was gonna go with Test for Echo, but honestly, like Test for Echo was I don't know. It's not a great album.
No, it wasn't.
And the break between Test for Echo and Vapor Trails was actually one of the longest breaks they took.
Yeah,
that was when Neil Peart had like a bunch of personal tragedies.
Yeah,
right?
His daughter and his wife both died.
Jesus.
And he went on like this big like motorcycle, just kind of
It's like
find
a
myself
vision quest kind of thing. Yeah. Poor guy. That was
unimaginable. Rough. But he even talks about this, like the opening track to Vapor Trails is just like this double bass like onslaught of.
Oh, that was the big single, right?
Yeah,
yeah. I remember that. Yeah, Vapor Trails was definitely it was a little more kick ass.
Well, I was gonna say because I feel like Counterparts is a rock album, and I feel like Vapor Trails is a rock album, and Test for Echo is kind of like, hey, I'm Alex Lifeson, look at me pretend to fucking know what I'm doing.
Look at us over here. We're testing for echoes. Echoes.
Yeah, no, what was it? 2007 Snakes and Arrows. Yeah. Yeah, that one was a little more rockin' too.
Yeah.
That's kind of like where they've been at since Counterparts. That this was like a turning point they were going towards.
Yeah, and then the most recent one was Clockwork Angels, which I don't even know if I've listened to.
Oh yeah,
I watched an on-demand special in like 2000 that came out in like 2010, 2011, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I think
somewhere around there.
Yeah, I watched it on Comcast On Demand.
The last time I saw Rush, that album was just about to come out because they played a Caravan, which is off of that album, I believe, and that was like the leaked song that they were playing on the tour before the album came out. But yeah.
Any final thoughts on our neighbors to the north?
Neighbors to the north. The Kids in the Hall?
Yeah. Yeah, love Bruce McCullough.
Every time I think of Rush, I think about a couple of years. I think the last time they went through, they came through Boston. They had like all of South Station was just covered in giant Rush posters, like the entire.
Oh yeah, I
banners.
remember that
About 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it just kind of struck me as just like I feel like most people who get really excited to see Rush already like know that they're coming and don't need these giant banners here.
Oh, they have a built-in fan base. They're set for life.
I think there's a cult following of Rush.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I think like it really might have been like solidified around this time too, in like 1993. I think that would explain the high record sales too. I feel like that's when they were really kicking.
That's when
big arenas.
That's when dads had kids that were old enough to listen to it.
Exactly.
And that's I think what really kind of fueled them and gave them a career that lasts to this day.
That pure Canadian gold.
Yeah, pure
Come on,
Canadian
son.
gold.
But yeah, like it's 1993. Come on, son. You don't want to listen to that Candlebox crap.
Wait, can we go back to the damn Yankees too? Do you know that?
Jesus.
No, I'm trying to think here. So I've got a couple of notes here. I know we were kind of looking at the artwork, and Christopher was making comments about the picture of them sitting around the dinner table in suits.
Well, no, all right. So they weren't just suits. They looked like they were demoulet. Like they had those weird V-shaped things going down on their shirts. Like that looked like they were wearing medallions, but they weren't. Like they looked like they were dressed up for some formal Mason event.
Photography by Anton Corbijn.
No. This was like a photography by one of them. He has like a family friend that they call Uncle Gary, but he's not actually related to them.
Oh
yeah, he does photography in his basement.
We just do it at the Sears.
Yeah, I don't know. The cover is very witty.
It's a nut and a bolt,
Yeah, with dots going from the nut to the bolt.
so you know where you can predict the future based on these dots. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, there's one full entendre going on there.
It's life, man. We're all fucked.
It falls into that the classic Cracked article about every prog rock cover has to be either butts or dongs.
No, so I used to get pissed because when this album came out, my dad was gonna go see this tour, and for some reason, something always happened when my dad was gonna go see Rush, and he never got to see Rush, and now they're like, I don't think they're gonna play anymore because Neil's like got arthritis and he's gonna die or something.
I think they're
falling
done.
apart.
But they'll have a hologram, I think.
Yeah, but he'll have a hologram. But
CGI.
but my uncle went and he got my dad a shirt from the tour, and then I took it after I started playing this because he had still had it. So I took it and started wearing it, and it had a tortoise and a hare on it. So everybody would be like asking, because nobody knew this album for some reason, which is strange because apparently it hit number 2 on Billboard. But yeah,
I don't remember any of the singles.
So people
off
would be
of
like,
this
"What album is that?" I was
on
like, "Oh,
the
it's the
radio.
one with the rabbit and the hare." And they'd be like, "Oh, Presto." I'm like, "No, it's not fucking Presto." I should have said the nut and the bolt, but I'm an idiot, so nobody knew what I was talking
The
about.
one with the nut and the bolt. Undertow?
all of Rush's album covers. It's the one with the thing and the thing. Well, the lady and the fucking trash yard.
It's the one with
Permanent
the
waves.
with the 21 and the 12.
The dude's butt on the star.
The first time I went to Japan, I was like 5 rooms down from room 2112, and I was so mad that I didn't get room 2112.
Oh, were you like a total creep and like went outside that person's door and started taking pictures of it?
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, it's like Cameraman 419. The last time we went to Iceland, so we ended up getting tickets through Groupon, like flight tickets there.
Yeah.
And we ended up in the same hotel as basically everyone else who did. So we were the only ones there who had been there before and weren't spending all of our time like going on tours and stuff like that. Humble brag. But what was amazing about it is we were leaving our room one day, and as we walked by room 419 down the hall from us, there's this dude stepping out. He's opening the door, and his wife is inside a little bit past him. And she's like, "Do you have your camera with you?" And he just stops dead in his tracks. He turns around, looks at her, gives her this look like he's like very self-assured, and he says, "Always." So from then on, we referred to him as Cameraman 419. And whenever we saw him, like, anywhere, we'd get really fucking excited. So, like, we'd see him at a restaurant once and be like, oh, shit, there he is. He's got his camera. And we were on the same flight back with him to New York, which was delightful.
Yeah, you can never be too careful these days.
Always
Gotta have something.
It reminded me of that scene in the first Batman when Jack Nicholson is still before he turns into the Joker. He's sitting there at the mirror, like, fixing himself, and his girlfriend comes up behind him and she's like, "You look fine," and he just stops and turns and looks at her with contempt. And he's like, "I didn't ask." Always.
It's me, Sugar Bubs.
You are my number one guy. So is that what we're reduced to? We're just going to quote Batman.
1989, right? 1989.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton, Batman.
All right, fuck. What else?
Michael
do we have?
Keaton's Batman. That's one that he wrote and directed by himself.
Oh God! All right. Any other commentary? Do we want to go around the table and do our best Canadian accent?
Oh, look at me with my bag of milk and my loonies and toonies.
Bag of milk.
They sell bagged milk up there. You get milk by the bag.
No, I did
And
not
they have
know that.
loonies and toonies.
I'm finding a picture, but someone else go ahead and do an equally racist one, so I don't look like a weak.
All right. Canada isn't. The Canadians isn't. It isn't a race. It's a nationality.
Oh wow, that is a bag of milk.
It is quite disturbing.
Milk bags are plastic bags that contain milk. No shit. Nice. Love it. I love how you typed in bag milk Canada in the Google.
Oh no! I typed in bag milk and Google auto suggested the rest for me. Milk bags are plastic bags that contain milk. They are usually stored in a pitcher or jug with one of the corners cut off to allow for pouring. A typical milk bag contains approximately 1 1/3 liters.
I don't know. You're getting pretty European over there.
Yeah, no, it's getting weirder and weirder as it goes on.
Getting more Scandinavian.
Hey, why don't you meet me down at the Tim Hortons, eh?
Well, it makes sense because it's also available in the Baltics. South America, Eastern Europe, and the Baltics, but primarily Canada.
They have really good milk in Estonia.
I've never been.
I have. I didn't know they had really good milk until I got back.
Well, I'm real sorry.
John, you want to throw anything Canadian in before we sign off?
I got nothing.
All right. All right. I don't think we got anything else.
Nope.
All right.
The tank is empty.
How do we usually end these things?
Thanks, bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
All
See
right,
you next
in
time.
hell.
I love you, dog man.
Dog man.
Whoa, is that Jesus? Is that our Lord Jesus Christ?
No, I think it's Lenny Kravitz.
No, I think it's... No, it's Rush. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Invisible airwaves crackle with life, but I don't breathe with the energy. This guitar sounds kind of cool, though.
Yeah. If you happen to be a wuss. A dude with dreadlocks and tattoos.
This is Joanne Jenkins, CEO of AARP. The coronavirus continues to affect us all, and we're providing trusted information, battling fraud, and creating resources for caregivers. Stay connected at aarp.org/coronavirus.